It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Toys.
So today is about Christmas. I absolutely love Christmas. What does Christmas mean to me? Christmas means going home, seeing my family, snuggling up under blankets and drinking too much. Christmas means forgetting about the outside world. Christmas to me is memories of childhood. And money does come into it, doesn't it? Because some things you can't buy. I remember my dad saying to me, "What would you like for Christmas?" one year. And I said, "World peace." And he said, "What about something around the £20 mark?" So what is Christmas? And why do we need to talk about it? Why do we feel like this is something that we need to discuss? And so to put that into a context and to put that into Perspectiva's context, I'd love to bring to the stage Dr. Jonathan Rowson.
This event is about three things. It's about Christmas, it's about consumerism, and it's about confusion. Okay? And I'm going to start with confusion because that's the one that's actually closest to the heart of Perspectiva in some ways. How do you navigate your sense of what's important? And I think you can't really get to that without going through a certain amount of confusion. You have to sort of unlearn a lot of what you know to get to the point where what is revealed as important is a sort of distillation of an experience, not just another dollop of information. So that's kind of where this is coming from. The confusion at Christmas is ambient. I mean, we carry on doing the weird things like celebrating Santa, giving weird gifts. We're caught up in this sense of duty and sort of ritual that we haven't really taken ownership of. It's sort of something that we live through. So the challenge with confusion is to sort of not be automatically and unconsciously confused, but sort of consciously and willingly confused. To have your confusion instead of being had by it. And that distinction between having something and not being had by it is right at the heart of the growth story, the development story that we think human beings have to go through on virtually all the major issues of our time.
You know, we all have this idea that consumerism is an aspect of our superficiality and that with one big effort we should be able to somehow clear ourselves of that, get over it. So, you know, we're caught in a much more profound trap than we realize. And that in a sense, you might say, and some politicians do say, that consumerism is keeping us sort of content and happy while we're caught in this work ethic where we have no time to think. So, you know, don't be too hard on yourself when you're a consumer.
Yeah.
Probably the one person you've never sent a Christmas card to is yourself. So what we'd like you to do is to write a Christmas card to yourself, but yourself in 2018. So this is the Christmas card that you'd like to receive next Christmas. And we'd like to start it perhaps with this phrase, "This is how I hope to find
On
you."
your own front door, a pair of hopalong boots and a pistol that shoots is the wish of Barney and Ben.
The purpose of this evening is to get confused. And I'm hoping that Liz and Paul can both help me in different ways go deeper into that confusion, the purpose of which is to not to stay forever lost, but to actually to recognize yourself as lost in a certain sense and thereby be more likely to be found.
I wanted to find out about the sort of the mess in Christmas. I'm a Christian myself. I always thought, you know, I was actually part of a campaign last year, and the Church of England hired me. I'd say they paid me, so it's kind of, that's, you know, handheld high. Christmas starts with Christ. I was part of that campaign, and then looking into this, I thought, well, actually, I don't think Christmas starts historically with Christ. It's more like Christ is in the middle of Merry Christmas, and there's thousands of years of Merry with Norse Yule. Then there's Christ in the middle, and then there's mess, and that's where we are, I suppose, now.
So you've got three separate festivals, all of which are a bit weird within themselves. Domestic festival of prosperity and warmth and closing in on ourselves. The pagan festival, which is a bit spikier, but only really exists still in remnants. And then this really weird Christian bit. And the three come together sometimes with a screech of gears and sparking metal. Christmas for Christians is about the incarnation, and carne here is the same root as chili con carne, it's meat. God with meat on. God made flesh. The word, the logos, if you know any Greek philosophy, the logos become a person. And that person isn't a king or an emperor, but a powerless, poor, stateless, scandal-ridden, marginalized refugee infant. It's really, really weird, like the Christian bit of the Christmas story.
So I'm feeling anxious. And I'm anxious because, as one of your hosts, I got to that point where, which I thought we might get to, where it feels there's too much Christianity in the room.
Should I go?
No, please stay. And that's kind of part of the confusion, because on the one hand, there's nothing in what we've heard that should be in any way threatening, right? You're not taking out any knives. You're not, you're not trying to convert us. There's nothing like that going on. But there still seems to be something built into our culture that, when we speak of the religion that has defined our notion of individual rights, most of our ethics, many of our institutions, Christianity is sort of ambient culturally, but when it comes up religiously, there's an awkwardness. Now, I'm curious about that.
First of all, just wondered if anyone had any reflections on what we just heard.
And I can't help but think of Jesus as a radical, putting his body on the line. And I'm not a believer, I'm a total scientific materialist, but he's in my pantheon of radicals. So,
is even the spiritual side of Christmas, and I mean this with the greatest respect to any religious traditions, is it a form of spiritual bypassing, even trying to place this kind of light in the darkness?
I was surprised that more wasn't made of, for me, the central archetypal figure of Christmas being Santa, and that all of us, at least I think all of us, were indoctrinated into a world that was magical, that that magic existed, that there was a being, a person who was super benevolent and ran a magical toy store in Lapland and treated his workers really well, and then flew around the world at night giving presents to every single person. Everyone was deserving of his love. And there's a moment when that innocence is lost, but I wonder whether a big part of the psychology of Christmas is all of us trying to recreate the magic of childhood. And I wonder whether that is the birthplace of where spirituality might make a reappearance.
The confusion for me this Christmas has been Regent Street. And when I walk past Regent Street at Christmas and there are Disney lights, it makes me really, really angry. But this year there are angels. It's like, what do you think those freaking angels are saying? They're like, hey, have a lovely time shopping. There's these beautiful angels. And if angels are heralds of anything, what would they be singing over that street,
We thought, well, of course, it's Christmas, we have to sing. And then Paul mentioned to me that he has rewritten the words to Fairy Tale of New York, to the story of the Nativity. So you have the song sheet there.
It was Christmas Eve, babe, in Bethlehem, and innkeeper said to me,
go find another one.
The angels of the heavenly choir sang like you won't believe, and the bells were ringing out for Christmas Eve.